Okay, I have a feeling this one's going to take more than one video because now we have to talk about African American progressive era reforms, and we have to go visit all the stuff that we didn't talk about in the Gilded Age. So, as you remember, there is still racial mob violence and legalized segregation. Lynchings are occurring every day, everywhere, pretty much. The KKK, the Knights of the White Camellia, and other white supremacy groups are running rampant in the South, along with the Jim Crow laws, so there's not really a lot of safety there. There's not really a lot of safety outside of the South either, but especially in those former Confederate states, we're going to see a lot of violence. And some middle-class white Americans are absolutely horrified by the violence, but they still support the idea of racial science and separation of people. So you can be horrified by something but still not want to integrate those people into your life, I guess. So we need to talk about this guy. This is a beautiful, beautiful painting, drawing, whatever, of Booker T. Washington. And we should have talked about him in the last unit, but I saved him for this unit because Booker T. Washington, who was born enslaved around 1856, is one of the first influential African American leaders at the start of the Progressive Era. So in 1881, he is the first principal of the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute. And if you don't remember from our other videos, normal school just means a school that usually teaches you how to be a teacher. And an industrial institute gives you today what you would consider technical skills, vocational skills. So Tuskegee was, at the time, an all-black normal school. You will hear about them later on as we go through other stories. But at the time when he is principal, it is an all-black normal school. The graduates often traveled through the South teaching the new farming and industrial techniques that they had learned to the rural communities that lived in the South. And Washington really believes that education is the focus, and the power of education should be used to focus on self-improvement in the Black community and prove that you are productive members of society. And in 1895, he delivers what's called the Atlanta Compromise. And he says that African Americans should work diligently for their own uplift and success rather than worry about the civil and political rights. That their success in everyday life would convince the white Southern people to grant them these rights as time went on. So it's not fight for your rights, it's live your life, and eventually people will be willing to give you the rights that you deserve because they will see that you deserve these rights and you should not be fighting for them. And a lot of influential white men really liked this message at the time because it resonates with them with this idea that you want to hold the Black people down. And he's preaching this idea of nonviolence, like just know your place, basically. So Booker T. Washington is invited to the White House in 1901 by Teddy Roosevelt. Now, our other very influential African-American leader is W.E.B. DuBois, and he is pretty much the exact opposite of Booker T. Washington. So in 1905, DuBois leads a group of civil rights leaders in Niagara, Canada, to discuss immediate steps for equal rights. He does not agree with Booker T. Washington. He doesn't want people to just wait for the rights to come to him. He says we need to fight for them. We need to work for them. So DuBois was a professor at Atlanta University. He is the first African-American with a doctorate from Harvard, and he is the spokesperson for the Niagara movement, which is held in Niagara Falls. But if you ever go to Harper's Ferry and you visit Storer College down there, the Niagara movement had one of their meetings down there too. It was a very impressive little museum down there. So highly recommend a day trip to Harper's Ferry if you're anywhere near West Virginia. It's a super cute town and there's a lot of very good history there. But Washington is DuBois's nemesis. Not that they don't like each other, but everything that Washington stands for, this idea of like just be quiet and be civil and wait for equality is not what DuBois stands for. DuBois is like, let's go. Let's take a direct path. We want political leadership. We need skills of educated Black men. We need talented Black men to push for our rights. We can't just wait for it to happen. So both of these men are very influential, and we are also going to get out of them some really big movements. So DuBois and the others of the Niagara movement are going to draft the Declaration of Principles, which looks for immediate equality for African Americans. And a lot of this messaging is strong. It makes sense. And national Niagara chapters are going to start to spring up in 21 different states in 1 year after the movement starts. So they have a lot of traction. People really like this idea. And if you know anything about the United States, racial tension is always there. And so in 1908, there is a race riot. In Springfield, Illinois, a white mob attacks a Black community. I don't know why. I know that it's like, well, why? You don't really need a why. But usually there's some like triggering event that makes people fall on this as a reason to go do it. I just don't have the reason. Whatever the excuses that they use to attack this community, the rioters destroy homes, they destroy businesses, and they lynch 2 men. Now again, lynching is not a crime. It's not a federal crime anyways. So their targets in this riot are African American people, as well as Jewish Americans, and any white American who is sympathetic to the Black community. And in this riot, we are going to see Black businesses, especially, that suffer great losses. It's estimated they've lost over $100,000 worth of damages, which is about $3 million today. And after 3 days of this riot, violence has escalated so much that the state militia is finally called in to restore order. And about 150 people are arrested, but very few are convicted of a crime. However, the riot is covered by the press, which is something, and it leads us to the formation of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP. The NAACP is founded by Ida B. Wells Barnett, the same Ida B. Wells who refused to march at the back of the suffragette movement. She's married, so it's a hyphenated Wells Barnett. W.E.B. DuBois, and Mary Church Terrell in 1909. And the NAACP is going to work to progress African Americans' rights. And they put out their own publications, their own magazines, and they put out a publication called The Crisis, a record of darker races. And that is going to be like their way of spreading news about what their job is, what they do for work, what they're looking for. In 1904, the women had merged the National Federation of Afro-American Women and the National League of Colored Women to form the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs, which is a very less talked about club. But it actually, if you're following the timeline here, it came 5 years before the NAACP. So the NACWC is founded by Harriet Tubman, Frances E.W. Harper, Ida B. Wells Barnett, and Mary Church Terrell. And their motto was "Lifting as we climb." And so Terrell establishes the agenda for this club, and this agenda focuses on job training, wage equity, and childcare. And they go out and they raise funds for kindergartens, for vocational schools, for summer camps, and for retirement homes, as well as working to oppose segregation in transportation. And all of them are strong supporters of the anti-lynching movement. And the NAACP is still around today. Nobody really ever talks about the NACWC, but they deserve just as much credit because those women were working hard. And we will see where that goes in our next little section. Maybe we'll keep an eye on what this cat is doing because I do not know anymore.